Pleased, really pleased. Just spoke in there. They're a good team, very well coached. They've got a coach who I know who is very good at what he does, very organised. And obviously we spoke over the last couple of days about what approach was needed for this game. And if you get it wrong at times because of how they play, that they'll cause you problems. And to be fair to the lads, other than the odd little spell, I thought they managed the game very well. And then as the game went on, even prior to the sending off, I thought we were growing and growing. And I could only really see one team taking the game at that point. But credit to them, irrelevant of the red card, they did everything properly today.
I mean, sometimes this season, obviously, the lads have scored early on today. They had to be a little bit more patient, like you say, against a good team. Were you pleased with that application and how they just stuck to their game plan and waited it out and obviously took their chances when they came?
It was one of the big things that we spoke about before the game. They are an organised team and they're good at what they do. So we knew that we might have to be patient. We talked about that. We knew that they might have spells with the ball, although to be fair to the lads, I thought they were very good out of possession and kind of limited what they did have, but they were a threat on the counter, and the threat was some of the quick play where they play quickly into the front line and then go and join in. But yeah, that happens in games sometimes where you've got to be patient, you've got to do your job, and then to be fair, there's nothing better sometimes after a performance where you just go one up just on the stroke of half time, because it changes the dynamic of team talks and it changes their approach possibly into the second half and gives us that little bit of something to take into the second half, and they know that they've got to come out there. I was waiting to pounce, and I thought the lads did that.
Were you pleased with the fixes in terms of little bits of the play from obviously Wednesday night where it didn't quite link up quite as much as we would have wanted?
Yeah, I think the conditions were a big factor the other night. We talked about that. You know, credit to Barnsley, I thought that they made that a tough game for us. We knew that Hull would make it a tough game for us today again, and so when we look at it, we've navigated through 2 tough games there and took 4 points. So if you're looking at it from a results side, we're pleased with that. But for me, it's more the performances. On Wednesday, we had to fight, scrap. You know, we've got the mantra of outrun, outfight. The outplay was maybe missing come Wednesday, and today I thought all 3 were there. So for us, it's a pleasing afternoon, but I thought the individual performances were the most important bit, and we got that today from the subs as well, coming on, making impacts. And that's what we really narrowed down onto, about role responsibility and doing your job. As always, there'll always be the odd occasion where you don't quite get it right, but I thought how they then responded off the back of that, they were straight back on the front foot, taking the game to Hull. So I think we can be pleased with today.
It's another clean sheet at the other end as well, isn't it? And like you say, given they're a good side, Faxo didn't have a humongous amount to do during the game.
Yeah, I don't think their results reflect how good a team they are. You know, I think they've been, I spoke to them before the game, they've had a few with the first team, etc., like we do at times. So as I say, it's one of them that we identified a few games that we knew would be very tough. This was one of them. It's good for the lads, good for the development to have that stretch and that test. And I thought they answered it. And yeah, as you said there, pleased for Faxo. You know, he's a young keeper who's learning his way in the game. We're putting a lot of emphasis on him playing out under pressure, and he's doing very well with it. At times he'll get it wrong because he's young, but at times when he gets it right, it's massive for us, and we want that from him. And for a back line and a keeper in a game where we knew that they were a threat with the ball to keep a clean sheet, I think they can be pleased as well today.
Finally, you always talk about wanting good tests for the lads. Obviously next week they've got a Premier League Cup tie against a Cat one side, and then in the same week obviously Sheffield Wednesday away at Hillsborough, so it's a good week for the lads coming up.
Yeah, and it's another thing that we discussed about the scope of different games that we'll play over these 4 games if you include Barnsley. So we knew Barnsley would be a bit of a battle with it being a local derby and the elements were thrown into it. We knew this would be a completely different game, a little bit more like a chess match because of how they play. Be similar against Reading, who will look to get on the ball and try and dominate. And then Sheffield Wednesday, we don't need to put any extra hype or importance on that one because everybody's aware of what that carries. So it's been good. It's been good for the lads. We want them tests. You know, we'd like to play men's team where possible. We're looking for them opportunities for the stretch. But while we're coming up against what we're coming up against, all we can do is ask for the most out of our players, and it's on them performance-wise to deliver. And again today, individually, collectively, I think they can be fairly pleased.